Apart from the major in IEM Cologne, IEM Katowice is one of the most prestigious tournaments in Counter-Strike, stemming back a long history with some of the most important teams and players lifting that trophy. This year, Katowice is being played right before the majors, so for the teams who bomb out of the RMR, this could very well have been one of the last tournaments being played with a particular lineup. Now, ever since the transition to CS2, the two teams that have been dominating the scene are Vitality and FaZe Clan, with FaZe managing to make it into the grand finals with every LAN event thus far, only being beat by Vitality. Eyes were definitely on these two teams, but most eyes were on another particular team and player, Team Spirit, with this being the young star Donk's first S-tier event. Donk and his teammate Magisk had missed the Blast Spring groups just a week prior due to them not being able to get their visa, and the questions of if the pressure of such an environment will get to Donk began to pile up. How would he and the rest of Team Spirit respond?
Kills from him and Zontix.
A casual 13-0 against Team Apex in their first match, where Donk netted a 2.24 rating while screaming his head off at the other team. It was clear that Spirit came here to play, making their way onto the main group stage. Now for the remainder of the video, I will be focusing on specific teams rather than entire groups. These teams would be Heroic, ENCE, G2, MOUZ, Rebels, and of course Team Spirit, with slight mentions of other teams here and there. Now why do I choose these teams? Heroic had lost 3 of their key players and are coming off the back of a last place finish at the spring groups with their new lineup. ENCE had their lineup purged by Team Falcons, now becoming a majority Polish team by acquiring the 9 core. This would be the lineup debut for the team on LAN. G2 obviously are the returning champions, however are missing a few pieces from that trophy lifting lineup, bringing Nexa in place of JKS and a new coach in Taz. For MOUZ, they failed to make it to the Spodek for the entirety of CSGO, but here's a chance with a new game and a new young squad led by the Polish Sui. Rebels had qualified via the Polish qualifier, beating out other Polish competitions such as 9 and coming in as the lowest ranked team at 118th place. Of the teams mentioned, Heroic, ENCE, and Rebels would qualify alongside Spirit from the play-in stage. All teams played exceptional, exceeding expectations put onto them, with Heroic knocking Astralis into the lower bracket where it would be ENCE who would finish them off in an upset victory for both teams.
Device obliterated and a knife in the back for good measure.
Hello! Hi!
And despite Rebels' low world ranking, they also managed an upset victory against the supposed powerhouse Cloud9, sending them down to the lower bracket of the play-ins. But now the main stage is where the rest of the competition is, and for many, this is where they believe Donk would be put to a rest and finally be humbled by the Titans before him. However, Donk's only real test leading up to the playoffs was his initial match with Na'Vi, who managed to take away a map from the team following a comeback on Anubis. Both Complexity and FaZe were unprepared for Team Spirit, who were the first team to qualify for the playoffs. The question now was if Donk could continue this performance in front of a live audience. ENCE miraculously made it to playoffs, even with all the odds against them, as their opening match was against #1 team in the world, Vitality, a team consisting of the #1 player in the world, IGL of the year for 2023, and they're even considered team of the year for 2023. However, they were no match against the power of Polish friendship, as ENCE really got under the skin of Vitality and managed to pull through a 2-1 victory. It would be MOUZ who would snap ENCE back to reality, leaving them in the quarterfinals while they were now in the semifinals. With Vitality losing to ENCE, they were now where nobody imagined them, the lower bracket up against a fresh new Heroic. Vitality managed to get upset again and were now on the receiving end of a last place finish. Zywoo's streak of a positive 1.0 rating was ended after 40 odd maps, and Vitality's cold streak at Katowice would continue. In an interview before the event began, Nerd stated, "Maybe it's delusional, but I believe we can be in Spodek." Nerd sadly was delusional. Last year's victors eliminated Heroic on the cusp of elimination to manage a quarterfinal spot. Heroic can definitely walk away feeling proud from this event, but the taste of being one match away from the arena must sting. The list of teams for the playoffs could now be made. MOUZ and Spirit were in the semifinals and they would play on Saturday, while Friday was dedicated to the quarterfinals, where upon arrival, the crowd lit up for ENCE, as this had been the first time a Polish squad were in the Spodek in 8 years. The dream was alive for the team, and especially Hades, playing out of his mind with the crowd erupting after every op shot he got.
Yeah, he does. He's running back into position. He knows there's a player tucked in that corner. Second shot for Hades. Bolas is brought down.
Down 12-11 on the last map, 1 round away from overtime. ENCE shouldn't have even made it this far. Off the back of a DHA 1v3 on round 16, ENCE unfortunately crumble, and the Polish dream would have to wait another year to become a reality. And as for Falcons, they would now have to meet Donk. G2 also met an unfortunate end in their match against FaZe. We have seen these two teams put on quite a showing before on this very stage, but this time it was a one-sided victory for FaZe, sending last year's champions home to prepare for the RMRs. FaZe would now go against MOUZ, or as the casters would call them, FaZe Academy, as MOUZ Sports and FaZe have a history of players going from one team to the other, beginning with Nico, followed by Rops, and now most recently Frozen. Off the bench from NIP, Brolin will be brought in wake of Frozen leaving, and while him and Mouse felt prepared for FaZe, the results proved otherwise, as Mouse would lose 2-0 in their worst performance to date as a squad, ending in the same manner as Ents, one round away from overtime in a disappointing finish to what could have been a great series. In the middle of the playoffs, Valve would drop a massive update as well as a minor updates to follow, and in the original update, it stated that Peeker's advantage had been reduced by 16 milliseconds. This was it, the Donk nerf it was called. Donk's greatness would be no more.
They've already left cave, and Donk is waiting for that peek around the corner, and Snappy finds out the hard way who's waiting around the other side. Another fight for Donk.
However, Donk paid no attention to the supposed nerfs. In fact, his stats got even better. Now, I don't want to discredit the rest of Team Spirit, who were also playing really good, but sometimes it just felt like a one-man show, as Spirit would dismantle Falcons across Anubis and Ancient. A rematch for FaZe Clan, and the 4th grand final for the organization. While Kerrigan, Robs, and Brokey had won the event back in 2022, this would be Rain's 3rd attempt in the finals, as he was forced to sit out in 2022 and watch as his team lifted the trophy without him. And as for Frozen, he had never even made it to the playoffs at Katowice, let alone the finals before. And with the 2nd place finish already with his time in FaZe, I'm sure Frozen would have loved to taste a bit of success in his new jersey. Even their coach Neo had a storyline coming into the grand finals, being the last remaining Polish player in the tournament taking place in Poland. Team Spirit up until Katowice had never even made it to the finals of an S-tier event. Shiro had already won the event back in 2021, but that tournament was online, and his only taste of offline glory was in Dallas back in 2022 when he was still with the Gambit core. New team, new players by his side. Would Spirit be able to pull it off again against FaZe, who apart from their initial match, have been dominating all tournament long? The answer was simple.
Get dunked.
Oh, the shadow betrays Carrigan. The orb dispatches of him, and look at Donk do it! That's disgusting! Revolting from Donk!
FaZe would lose in the manner that they had never experienced before. A clean sweep where it looked as though they never even stood a chance apart from the 2nd map, Mirage. But for the 3rd time this playoffs, a last round finish for Team Spirit. FaZe were shocked, the crowd was shocked, everybody was shocked at just how dominant one player could be against already established names of Counter-Strike. Donk didn't just become the youngest winner / MVP in Katowice. He didn't just put on the best rookie debut performance of all time, he matched the best performance of an individual player at an event, tying with Nico at his dominant ESL New York 2017 performance. But Nico's was only across 7 maps, while Donk did it across 12, with his peak literally being in the grand finals with a 1.9 rating. It's obvious that Donk and the rest of Team Spirit are the real deal. They're currently 3 for 3 in LAN finals, and 2 of them were even before adding Shiro into the mix. Both sides ended the event with tears, but for obviously different reasons. And as for Donk, while he isn't a person of many words currently, he lets his scene-altering gameplay speak for itself, and it looks like now the questions become just how do you put a stop to Donk, and who will be the first team to do it. Now he has came the closest, but someone will have to figure out how to put the nail in the coffin, or we may already be looking at our Copenhagen major winners.